Howdy folks, so do you use arpeggios when you're soloing across a blues? Because if you don't, you should. Why should you use arpeggios when you're soloing across a blues? Because it's a great way of hitting some really strong, cool notes. So let's think about, I was playing over a bit of a jazz blues there. We're going to think of a sort of more of a basic blues in A7. So the chords will be A7, D7 and E7. So we need to think about the arpeggios in those chords and how we can find those arpeggios all over the neck from different strings, using root notes on different strings, so we're sort of free to do what we want. So let's think of chord 1, which is an A7. So as you should know, an A7 contains a root, a major third, the 5 and the flat 7. So in case of A, we've got an A note, which is the 1. The major third is the C sharp, we've got the E, which is the 5, and the G, which is the flat 7. Now, out of those, obviously the 1 is important. The 5 is a bit dull, to be fair. It's very similar to the 1. It doesn't add an awful lot of colour to the chord, and we can kind of ignore it. A lot of jazz players tend to ignore the 5 a lot of the time. Obviously you can play it if you want, but it doesn't add a lot of interest really, so therefore a lot of the time you can just ignore it. Obviously then we've got the major third. That's really important. That's a really characterful note. It determines whether the chord is major or minor. And then we've got the 7th. That's really important as well. In fact, the two most important notes aren't anything to do with the 1 at all really. They're to do with the 3rd and the 7th. See, the 3rd determines whether it's major or minor. That's super important, right? And the 7 will determine whether it's like a major 7 chord, a minor 7th chord, a dominant 7th chord. That's super important as well. The 1 is actually less important. So the most important ones are really the 3rd and the 7. So let's say we had an A7 chord like that. So if we're starting from this root note here, this A, we need to understand how to play root 3 flat 7 from there, which would just be this. All the diagrams for this, by the way, are on my Patreon page. So if you head over to there and check that out, you'll find all the diagrams for this that you can download as a PDF, nice and easy. So this, which is a bit like a D7, isn't it? Is root 3 7. So we can play that off the low E string. Now, if you want to add the 5 in there, you could do that. There's the 5 there. Okay. Now the next root note that's kind of round about that area is here. Okay, so you would think, well, we can do the same pattern, but listen to what it sounds like. Sounds wrong, right? Because the B string's tuned differently. So we've got to go like this. So we're root, major third, flat 7th. Okay, you could put the 5 in here. Or slide like that. So far we've either got root 3 flat 7, root 3 flat 7, or root 3 5 flat 7, root 3 5 flat 7. So we've got another root here, so you should be able to see the root here, the major third here, and the flat 7 there. So that's another sort of mini arpeggio, a little bit trickier because you've got to slide back. You could go flat 7, root, major third, and then you could link it up with the 3rd higher up here. So you could go root, flat 7, root, major third, and then do a walk up to that that major third there. So when you see those arpeggios, those are notes to target, so you don't have to jump straight to them. So that's a really cool thing to do. And then when I'm there, I'm kind of thinking of other arpeggios I can find. So then I'm thinking the root here, root major third. Where's the flat 7? There. So I've got another one of those root 3 flat 7s. 5. Okay, so now I'm round about there. I might see this root note here. Major third there. Okay. Flat 7 there. Or flat 7 there. And I keep going up. Major third. Root. Major third again. So I'm playing around with all these, kind of thinking of the root notes across the neck, finding them all over the place, and then finding these root 3 flat 7s associated with them. We could do this one as well. I missed this one, which is a bit like that one, but off the A string. Put the 5 in it. Slide up to the octave. Alright, so I'm just finding them all over the place, and then I'm incorporating them in my solos and using those as kind of landing places, if you like, and all the other notes around them as colour to fill in. So I might do a line like, alright, something like that. Now that is just root 3 flat 7. Now I'm doing a chromatic walk down to the 5. Now that chromatic walk works because I've started off on a strong starting point, and then I've gone walk down to a strong destination, the 5. And then I might continue my walk, maybe like that, going 4, 3, flat 3, and then down to the root. Yeah. Something like that. So you can see the bits in between are kind of colour, and they're less important than those chord tones. Okay, so you can afford to play around with them and take liabilities with them because they aren't, they're not quite as critical as the root notes are. They're just for colour. So across the D, so when we come to the D, if we think about the A1 there, the D1 is here. So I see that a lot, root 3 flat 7. I also see the D chord, and I think of that major third there. There's a root, or a root here. So that's a little arpeggio there, flat 7, root, major third, and I'm sliding into it from the minor third, which is very common. So a line like that maybe. You know where I'm going, minor third, major third, root, flat 7, 5, and then walking chromatically down to the major third. You know, so a little line like that of the D is going to sound really cool. And again, those root notes, those are the notes in the arpeggio. They're my sort of landing places, and then I can afford to take a few liberties with the notes in between and put in some chromatic notes for colour. So I've got a D there, I've got a D there, I've got a D here, haven't I? I might see major third there, flat 7 there, or the flat 7 there. So I've got root here, major third, 5, flat 7, 5, root there, like the 2 and the 4 on the way down. So although I'm not thinking root 2, 4, flat 7, whatever it is. I'm not thinking that. I am kind of thinking that when I'm not coming up with these lines, but kind of a long time ago, I kind of thought that a lot so I could find all these things. But now, because I've done it so much, I'm not thinking of them like I did before, but they're still, you know, I'm still aware of what I'm playing, which is really important. So you can play over that blues progression like that, thinking about those chord tones as like mini arpeggios, concentrating on the 1, the 3, and the flat 7, super important. But the first thing I would do is I'd just do an exercise, like I'd put on a major blues and just do this. D, A, D, something like that, where you're just playing these little arpeggios across the chords to follow them, right? Once you've really got the hang of that, then you can play around with putting other notes in, but don't jump straight into that. Really get the hang of the little arpeggios first, play them across a blues like that, sort of just dead straight, forget any phrasing, you're just thinking about the notes. And when you can do that successfully, then add all the fancy stuff into it. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, all that stuff really helps grow the channel. Catch you next time.